Okay, so question 10. Question 11, sorry, my bad. And question 11 is about databases. Now, you'll almost always get a database question in this exam. So just be ready for one. They're normally not that hard. They just require a bit of working out as to what's going on. So be ready for it. So we've got all this stuff here. We can have a quick glance at it, see what's going on, and then we have some questions to answer. So state the number of records in the database table. Oh, well, okay, I'm going to jump here, and it says 31 here, so I'm going to use 31. Incorrect. Okay, so what you had to spot for this one is that it is not sequential. So for example, here it goes from 8 to 12, and then 12 to 15. So this is not the correct number of records. Now, just in case you're not sure, a record is all the data about a single, there is a right word for it, a single thing. Entity, about a single entity. Sorry, I totally forgot. Okay, so for example, a person, or about a movie, or about a dog, or about a power station, whatever it happens to be, the data about a single thing is a record. And so generally speaking, that's going to be our rows. So this is a record, this is a record, and this is a record, and so on. So we just need to count them. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay, so I think we get 20 records. Please double check that. But you get the idea. We just have to know what a record is and count it. So A is probably 20. Okay, now give the name of the field that would be used as the primary key. Okay, so first of all, we've got to understand what is a primary key. Well, basically, every record needs to have a single field that will be used to identify it. Okay, so for example, well, I'm pretty sure cat number here is going to be our one, but we couldn't use movies, titles, and we couldn't use genres, and we couldn't use all these other things. And why not? Well, because the primary key must be something that is unique. Okay, so the primary key must be unique. The primary key must be unique. Just keep repeating that mantra to yourself forever. So there is a possibility that you could have movies which have the same name. So for example, King Kong has been made multiple times, as has The Mummy, as has different things. So the title would not work as a primary key because there is a chance that it will not be unique. That applies to the genre. So you can see there's multiple action movies, there's multiple drama movies, doesn't work. Blu-ray, multiple yeses, DVD, multiple yeses, and the other one. So the only possible option is the cat number, and that is going to be unique for every single movie. So we are going to say cat number. Double check the thingy on that. Yes, ET kept playing. Okay, state the reason for. Okay, well, I've already answered that question. The primary key must be unique. Okay, so just seriously, whenever you get a database question, it almost always has this question in it, which is you have to say that the primary key must be unique. Okay, cool. So those are kind of like our knowledge questions. And then we get on to data types. So what's a data type? Well, a data type is basically saying how will we store that information in the system. Now, the database data types are similar to our Python or programming data types, but they're not necessarily identical. So for example, strings we generally call text in a database. You can have dates, you can have currency. So there's a few additional data types that we don't really have in standard programming. But basically, all we have to do here is go up and look at the field and figure out what is the data type. So, cat number. Now this contains a letter. So it cannot be an integer, a float, or a double. So therefore, it must be by default a string. Oops, I lost my page. Okay, so the cat number must be a string. Now, this is probably the important one because this is maybe where most people are likely to get confused. What if there was no M in there? What if it was 1801, 1802, 1803? Would it still be stored as a string, or would it be stored as an integer? And the answer is it would be stored as a string. So why? Well, basically, when we use integers and doubles or whatever, or reals, we only want to store it as a number if it's something we are going to do mathematical operations on. The best example of that would be a phone number. Do you do maths with people's phone numbers? And the answer is no. So we would want it to be stored as a... we would want it to be stored... Oh, I'm getting some weirdness here. My keyboard seems to have changed into... Oh, it's because I've switched to the Chinese one for some reason. Okay, anyway, I'll figure that out between videos. But anyway, so let's say we had the phone number, I don't know, 0123 555 666. Now, naturally, we would store that as a string. Okay, but why? Well, because what happens if we were to store that as an integer, it would actually become 1234 555 666, because this leading zero would vanish. Okay, so to maintain its integrity, we have to store it as a string and not as an integer. Okay, so generally speaking, and you might see other variations on it, but generally speaking, any ID numbers, things like that, will usually be stored as strings. It's only stuff you do maths with that will be a integer or elsewhere. Now the others are maybe a bit easier. So title, well, title is obviously it's text, so title is also going to be a string. Okay. Genre 2, again, same thing. That was actually asked. No, genre 1. Okay. Genre 1 will also be a string. And then streaming, let's see. So, streaming, yes, yes, no, yes, yes, no, no. Okay, so these words could be strings, but there are only two options available. And if there are only two options available, we probably want it to be stored as a boolean. Okay? Now, why would you want to store something as a boolean rather than a string? Because it takes up a lot less space. So generally speaking, strings will take up more space than a boolean because it only really takes one bit for a boolean of 0 or 1, whereas strings can be of various lengths. And when they're setting the size of things, they have to give it that actual length. And so it makes more sense to store it as a boolean. Yay. Okay. And then our last database question is going to be on this SQL, structured query language. And basically we have to return the category number and title for all comedy movies. And we've got to do it based off of this here. Okay, so we want category number and title for all comedy movies. So, so select cat number and title from where, So generally speaking, not generally speaking, I'm not sure how to say it, but most SQL statements, when you're doing a query, you're going to have select from where, and then you're going to have possibly other attributes at the end there. So you can have things like group by, and then you could have like the alphabetical ascending order, orders ascending or descending. That's going to go at the end there. Okay, we could have joins and other stuff. But for us today, we only really need these three. So select the category number in the title. Now where, now maybe that's confusing, but from where? Okay, so from where, 2018 movie. So what's 2018 movie got to do with all this? Well, that is the name of our database table. So when you do the from, so select is going to be the field that we want. From is going to be the table that we want. And where is going to be the criteria of what we want. So we're going to select from the thing where genre equals comedy. Now you want it to be the same as it is in their database. So comedy with a big C and a small thingy. Now, if it's a string, then we have to show it's a string by putting it in quotation marks, usually. Okay, so that should hopefully be our answer to that database question. Alrighty.